Caitlin Clark has been the biggest headline in women's basketball. A rookie who isn't just breaking records but rewriting the future of the WNBA. Her popularity, viewership numbers, and on-court dominance have brought the league more attention than ever before. But with that spotlight comes pressure, and with pressure comes controversy. In a shocking twist, Caitlin Clark has allegedly uncovered what many are calling the biggest scandal in WNBA history, one that questions the very integrity of the league itself. But instead of being celebrated for her courage, reports claim she has been punished by the very organization she represents. Why would the WNBA turn on its brightest star? What was the scandal she revealed? And how deep does this rabbit hole go? And more importantly, what does this mean for the future of women's basketball? Caitlin Clark, the star that changed everything. Caitlin wasn't just another draft pick. She entered the WNBA as the most hyped women's basketball player of all time. At Iowa, she shattered NCAA records, pulling in millions of viewers to women's basketball games, a feat no one thought possible. Her three-point range, flashy assists, and fiery competitiveness made her a fan favorite long before she turned pro. When she was drafted into the WNBA, ticket sales skyrocketed. Games featuring Clark started selling out arenas. Television ratings jumped. Suddenly, the league wasn't just growing, it was exploding. And much of that was thanks to Caitlin. She was marketed as the golden girl of the WNBA, the face of the next generation. But with that spotlight also came resentment. Some veterans believed she was getting too much attention, while critics argued the league was favoring her over others. Whispers of a scandal. It started quietly, with rumors circulating among players and insiders. Whispers about questionable business practices, league politics, and decisions that didn't always align with fairness or transparency. Caitlin, new to the league but observant, reportedly began noticing patterns. Certain officiating calls that seemed too consistent to be accidental. Sponsorship deals being funneled toward specific markets. And behind closed doors, talks of favoritism when it came to scheduling and media coverage. For most rookies, it would have been easier to stay quiet. After all, the WNBA is a tight-knit community, and speaking out could mean alienating yourself from veterans, coaches, and even executives. But Caitlin Clark has never been one to back down. The scandal exposed. So what exactly did Caitlin Clark expose? According to reports and speculation circulating online, she revealed a culture of favoritism and hidden financial maneuvering inside the WNBA. One claim suggests that certain teams were being prioritized for media exposure and sponsorships, not based on performance but on business relationships. Another alleges that game schedules were manipulated to maximize viewership for specific players, often at the expense of fairness to other teams. But the biggest bombshell? Rumors that the league was funneling sponsorship money unevenly, ensuring certain stars and markets thrived while others were left behind. If true, this could mean players weren't competing on a level playing field, and fans weren't getting the full truth of the league they support. And that's when the punishment began. The WNBA's response. When Caitlin Clark's claims started making waves, the league moved quickly, but not in the way fans expected. Instead of launching an independent investigation or publicly addressing her concerns, reports suggest the WNBA shifted its focus onto Caitlin herself. Suddenly, media access around her was tightened. Interviews were restricted. Certain league promotions that had initially centered on Clark were quietly pulled back. Behind the scenes, some claim league officials began warning players and coaches to stay in line, a not-so-subtle message to avoid supporting Caitlin publicly. And when she continued to press forward, she found herself facing what many are calling targeted punishment. Player reactions. While fans were quick to defend Caitlin, the reaction among fellow players was more complicated. Some veterans publicly supported her, praising her courage for speaking out. They hinted at their own frustrations with the league, saying Caitlin was only saying what many had thought privately for years. These voices gave legitimacy to her claims. If veterans were backing her up, maybe the scandal wasn't just smoke. Was it suspension threats? Fines? Or something more subtle, like ensuring unfavorable officiating during her games to damage her reputation on the court? Different sources say different things, but one fact remains. Caitlin Clark went from the league's brightest star to its biggest problem almost overnight: backlash from fans. If the WNBA thought punishing Caitlin Clark would silence the conversation, they couldn't have been more wrong. In fact, it had the opposite effect. Fans rallied around Caitlin in droves. Social media exploded with hashtags like #StandWithCaitlin and #WNBAReformNow. Comment sections were flooded with demands for answers, and ticket-buying supporters began questioning where their money was really going. Even casual sports fans who didn't follow women's basketball started paying attention. The narrative shifted from rookie phenom breaking records to rookie hero standing up to a corrupt system. And in today's world of viral content, that kind of story spreads fast. Merchandise sales tied to Clark actually went up, proving that fans weren't turning away from her, they were doubling down. For many, Caitlin became more than a basketball player. She became a symbol of truth-telling in a league that desperately needed transparency. But fire. But not everyone was on her side. Other players criticized Caitlin, accusing her of disrespecting the league that gave her a platform. They argued she should focus on her game instead of stirring controversy. Some even implied jealousy, that Caitlin's massive spotlight had gone to her head. Media coverage and censorship. If there's one thing Caitlin Clark guaranteed, it was headlines. But the media's role in this scandal wasn't simple. At first, major outlets reported cautiously. Stories used words like rumored and alleged, clearly wary of upsetting the WNBA's media partners. Some coverage even seemed suspiciously watered down, leading fans to speculate whether the league was pressuring journalists to soften the narrative. Independent outlets and sports podcasts, however, had no such restrictions. They dove headfirst into the story, breaking down every detail, every leaked memo, every cryptic social media post from Caitlin. These platforms gave the scandal life when mainstream media seemed hesitant. And then there was the question of censorship. Fans noticed interviews where Caitlin's responses about bigger problems in the league were mysteriously cut short. Social clips that mentioned the scandal sometimes disappeared from official accounts. Coincidence? Or deliberate suppression? The bigger picture. What Caitlin Clark allegedly exposed goes beyond the WNBA. It raises uncomfortable questions about professional sports as a whole. If favoritism, sponsorship manipulation, and hidden financial deals exist in one league, who's to say it doesn't happen elsewhere? Fans have long debated the influence of big money in sports, from questionable refereeing in the NBA to uneven media coverage in the NCAA. Caitlin's claims add fuel to those suspicions. It also highlights the double standard in women's sports. While male athletes often have more power to challenge their leagues, women who speak out risk being labeled difficult or ungrateful. Caitlin's punishment shows just how fragile that balance is. Even the brightest rookie can be silenced if she threatens the system. What this means for Caitlin's career. The million-dollar question. What happens to Caitlin Clark now? On one hand, she's still the WNBA's biggest star in the making. Her talent, charisma, and fanbase make her too valuable to completely sideline. Even if the league wanted to erase her, it couldn't. She's simply too popular. On the other hand, the punishments she's facing could derail her momentum. Less favorable scheduling, restricted media, and league politics could all chip away at her shine. And if veteran players distance themselves, Caitlin risks isolation within her own team and locker room. But Caitlin's brand extends beyond the WNBA. With endorsement deals, global recognition, and a loyal fan base, she has leverage few athletes ever achieve this early in their careers. If the league continues to punish her, she could lean into her outside opportunities, using her platform to grow even without their full support. The future of the WNBA. On one path, they can continue trying to silence Caitlin Clark and bury the scandal. But doing so risks alienating the very fans who fueled the league's recent growth. Trust, once lost, is hard to regain. On the other path, the WNBA can embrace reform. They can acknowledge the issues Caitlin highlighted, commit to transparency, and prove they're willing to evolve. It won't be easy, but it could transform the league into a stronger, more respected institution. For Caitlin, her legacy may end up being bigger than championships or MVP awards. She might be remembered as the player who forced the WNBA to confront its flaws. And for women's sports, that could be revolutionary.